Welcome to another thrilling instalment of It's Football Not Soccer. We had hoped for a less ridiculous week. We were left kind of dumbfounded really by the week's progress. I'm going to let Ben open the billing to talk about his team's progress. Were you surprised, stunned, dumbfounded even by the Browns?
I will describe that viewing experience as painful. It was a difficult week for me watching the games this week, because I was playing against Deshaun Watson in a lot of my leagues. So I watched that game and was like almost in tears.
Hoping
Then
for a
I
Brown
thought,
pick-me-up.
yeah, right. Let's watch Chubb smash through some people. Let's see them get OBJ in the game. And what I saw was an offensive line that didn't know what they were doing. They were just taken apart, unfortunately. And Baker just didn't have time. Didn't have time to throw. Couldn't get it going. No. And it was a collapse. He had a lot of noticeable injuries. They had some difficulties, but really...
You're struggling for injuries on defence, aren't you?
Big. No cornerbacks. So Greedy was out.
Denzel Ward as well is a big blow for you.
Precisely. So you lost your 1-2 cornerbacks, but the game was lost because that pocket just collapsed too quickly, and then Baker's throws became erratic.
He just didn't look settled.
Oh, but some people lost the league. Or imagine going into that game and you like 1 point away from winning and you played Baker.
Yeah, a lot of people got really upset.
Yeah. Minus points on that game. I mean, it couldn't get much worse, but how good the 49ers look.
Wow. Are people sitting up and taking note of them now?
I think you've really got
I think they're all right, but they've not played the best teams.
No,
Bengals.
But you've
really...
got to remember, though, that the Browns went to the Ravens.
Yeah, and came away with them.
And did well. Yeah. Did very well.
We covered that last week.
The Chiefs
it's the Chiefs hangover.
Oh, I see. So the Ravens were just stunned by the knockout blow from the Chiefs.
It's the highs of playing the playing the Dolphins, and then going on the road, doing all right. Then you meet the Chiefs.
I just think you've got to start looking at that team now as a contender. It's
the 49ers.
Yeah, definitely. With how well they played, but focusing on my Browns, the train's not just derailed. I think it's a bit on fire. It's a falling off.
Abandoned ship.
I think
a train. Sorry.
In the water now. So.
It's a submarine.
Yeah.
Do you think the Browns are a little bit sad that it's too late to tank?
No, because I don't, and I don't think they will tank. Because I think
it's too late.
They will take some teams apart like they did to the Ravens. They're going to come against people that can't get to Baker, and it's going to hurt. And once they're ahead, Chubb will make them pay because he's very hard to stop once he gets going. So I think there's some games that are going to do well, but then a defensive line like that is going to
it's going to cause problems for any team.
There's a lot of talk around the experts on the subject saying that the Browns were a disaster. I don't think that's fair judgment. I think the Niners coming off a bye week with a very skilled head coach who's able to strategise against other teams and has his own method of playing his team that is slightly different to the way that the rest of the league plays a lot of the time. He's able to get more out of games when he can leverage that advantage. And I think the Browns were on a rough receiving end of someone that's had a great deal of time to plan for the game where the Browns didn't necessarily. And the Browns are definitely playing off talent over necessarily scheme at this point. Their head coaching situation probably isn't very good. I don't think it's a fair assessment of what the Browns are capable of on a week-by-week basis, but it was bad, wasn't it?
I mean, it was bad.
Yeah. I have to hold my hand up and say that I did expect the Browns to take a huge shoe-in during this game, and they absolutely took it.
Not that size, though, I don't think.
But this is why they drafted Baker Mayfield, because it's a team that's down, and he's able to play, hopefully, while they're down, while people are ragging on him, and that hopefully is the culture that he's come into to be the figurehead for. And we'll see if he can do that going into the next week. It will be a test for him, because everyone right now is really burning down the Browns, aren't they?
Yeah.
Playoffs?
Still feeling it?
It's
That's
really
true.
hard to division.
Yeah, it is.
Because the Ravens aren't guaranteed it, the Steelers aren't guaranteed it, and the Bungles
Definitely aren't.
aren't in it. So in that division, they could.
It's hard to know.
It's going to be
So strange.
random.
Yeah.
Absolutely random. So we'll see. It's still all to play for, but against the top teams, I think they're
Have
not there. They're
Have
not
you
where they
played-
need to.
Have you played the Bengals yet?
Have they played the Bengals? I don't think so.
No.
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 That's
Some
2
free wins
wins.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, hey!
Don't lose one of those though. That'll be
Oh!
It's a strange one because Bengals still, like, without the injuries that they've had, they still feel like they would be the best team in that division to me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I
Better
think
than
they've
the
had
Ravens.
so many injuries across the team that if they'd not had those injuries, they'd probably
They've
be
got
there.
some nice pieces, but
Well, AJ Green's still out. They've lost Ross with it. Their wide receivers are in and out injured. They've only got Boyd left. Eifert, you're never quite sure what you're going to get with him. It's all a bit over the place.
They had two
But-
significant injuries on their offensive line.
Yeah, their
at the
offensive
start
line,
of
they've
the
lost
year.
2 left tackles, is it? One after another.
Yeah, their first
Yeah,
round
first-
pick.
first round
went
pick.
I
out.
mean,
gone down.
Mixon's not been doing what
Yeah,
people were
Mixon's
expecting
been
of him.
knocked
He's
up a little bit.
might as well
Yeah.
been.
I think if they'd not had such a run of injuries, looking at the rest of the teams in that division, I think the Bengals might have snuck that.
It would have
They're
been-
not going to now. Obviously, they're tanking out as well. But
It's
yeah, I
hard to
think
recover from 0-5, isn't it? Really.
yeah, you're done.
But for a team for next year, if they can get those offensive line players
Yeah.
back, and if they could do
They've got some
something,
pieces. Yeah.
they can put something
They've
together.
got some.
The Steelers feel like they're trying to like steady a ship or something. Like, you know, it's all gone a bit rocky. They've lost big pieces out of all their offense. All their offense. Their defense is just starting to get them into games so that they're becoming contenders again. But
Well, they've
they
lost
don't
3
feel
QBs
good.
so far this year.
They've
the
lost
Steelers.
QBs.
They've lost Big Ben, they've lost Rudolph, and now they've lost Jalen Samuels.
Yeah, fair play. But the Steelers feel like they're trying to steady a ship in the defense, but they're not on the rise.
No.
The Ravens feel like they played the Dolphins, everyone got excited, and it turns out they're still the Ravens.
It's hard to be excited about the
Yeah.
Ravens because
And
they're a
they
bit
played-
boring. But
They played the Dolphins, didn't they? And then they played the Cardinals, and everyone's like, "Oh, this Lamar Jackson,
Yeah.
he's giving Mahomes a run for the money," and then he's like been brought back down to reality.
Pretty sure I called that one with him as well.
oh, for sure.
Because, you know, Mahomes is going to be the best quarterback.
Sure thing. Put some money in the swear jar.
Yeah. And the Browns are the Browns of the division, yeah? Don't matter how bad the Bengals are, the Browns are still in that division.
I realistically think the Browns could be looking at a
I
break-even
think
season.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
500.
They could
percentage.
accidentally win their division, maybe?
they could.
And that could be in contendership for the top of their division at this point because
No,
the
I
other
think the
teams just aren't
Ravens.
getting it together.
Ravens for me win that.
I think they're a positive wins team. I wouldn't have said much more than 9 wins though.
Does it feel like the weakest division?
No.
Got no power.
Yeah,
Teams
there's
in
no
it.
team that leads anything.
Yes, yeah.
I don't think
would
there's
agree
another
with
division
that
that I can think of off the top of my head that's in that same situation.
It's not the worst. It's not the suckinest pod of teams, but that's because it doesn't have. Well, it does, doesn't it? It's got the Bengals.
It's got the
So it does
Bengals.
have a true suck team.
I know, it's got the Browns, mate. It's
Well,
got the suckiest of the suck teams.
They're not, are they? That's the thing. You know.
Historically, the suckiest of the suck.
Yeah.
Maybe the Lions. But in the real terms, it's the Browns.
Well, traditionally, what we'd seen is that the Patriots would top their division and everyone else would suck.
Yeah, alright.
And somehow that's not happening this season.
Well, they are still topping the division.
Barely.
But everyone else is expected to suck, and that hasn't quite happened. But that's only because the Bills are trying to fly that flag.
Yeah, we're
Jets
putting
still
them-
not great.
Yeah, we
Dolphins.
But just look at the start of the season. There was a lot of hype around the Jets. There was a lot of hype around the Browns, and that's been dragged into the dirt and kicked to death.
But the Jets haven't had their quarterback. So
Yeah.
that's a little bit harsh. And they started the season with tough opposition. So it's been rough for them.
So you still think the Jets are a force?
I still think that they're a better team than they've shown so far.
Yeah, they're on the third string QB.
Well, that's certainly a vague comment, isn't it? They
they're-
are better. They are a better team than they've showed so far.
They're
Considering that QB's been out for the large
Yeah.
portion, that's fairly obvious. But
It's hard
Are they
to
in
put.
contention? Are they going to make the playoffs?
Well, not really,
Because
no, they're-
there was a lot of bullish
they're tanking away.
praise for the Jets early on.
Yeah.
5 wins for the Jets, I reckon, come
That's
the end of
it.
the year.
If the Patriots hadn't had Tom Brady for 5 games, then it'd be a different story. No, that's not true this
No,
year
it's
either,
not.
is it?
They had
No.
Brady missing for 4 games.
Yeah.
A couple of years
It's a
ago.
bad example.
And they went 2-2.
It's about right.
And they were down to their third string then. They went from
Yeah.
Garoppolo to Brissett.
Having said that, Garoppolo is now a starter for a very impressive looking team, and
As is
Brissett
Brissett.
is now the starter for a very impressive looking team.
But Garoppolo isn't being asked to win any games. He certainly didn't win that game against the Browns because that was all
You're
their
right.
running game. It's their running game.
Yeah.
He has not been asked in key moments
He's not
to
been-
make
yeah.
to make key plays.
He's had no pressure on him to pull it out of the bag, as
So
it
we'll,
were.
so we'll see. You know, we're waiting for them with that big 49ers
It'd be
matchup.
interesting. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how they played if they went behind.
Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, the 49ers haven't been challenged too hard, really, have they?
No,
Okay, that's a fair comment. What about them Bills, Dan?
them Bills. We just about swung it past the Titans thanks to their kicker, who was our man of the match.
Yeah.
Missing 4 field goals. Wow.
I mean, that's the sort of stuff that means you never get a job again, isn't it?
Well, he had a good year with the Chiefs last year, didn't he?
Santos.
Hasn't he been released?
Yeah, he's been released, yeah.
Yeah.
But again, incredible showing from the defence. A bit better on offence against a tough Titans defence. But we go into a bye week now, giving us a chance to recover from some tough defences. And then we come back and play the Dolphins in week 7.
Little cruise for you.
We've still got 4 games against winless teams.
Now, there are a couple of emerging Bills players that may be getting onto the radar for fantasy relevance.
Mm.
And one of them has a confusing naming situation that I encountered whilst trying to pick one up on waiver.
It's not that confusing, it's just a mishap by the Sleeper app.
Is that what it is?
Yes. His name is Daquille Williams, but he goes by Duke Williams, and every other fantasy platform will have him as such. But he's good. He's a good player. He was cut by the Rams a couple of years ago, so thought his career was over because he had a bit of off-field issues. Went and played in the Canadian Football League for somebody Eskimos, I think. And he had really good numbers at college. There's a video of him trucking a cornerback just flat. This cornerback's goading him on, and Duke Williams just runs straight through him and carries on his play as if he's not there. And there's Dawson Knox, the
Yeah.
tight end,
Yeah,
who also
absolutely.
looks,
A very worthy pickup.
going forward. But we're still without our starting tight end, Tyler Croft, that we picked up from the Bengals. So what role he'll have going forward remains to be seen, but certainly shown flashes of emerging
Well,
talent.
yeah, from his current play level, he looks like a guy with a strong future.
He does. But it's looking rosy.
It is, isn't it?
11-5 is not such a pipe dream after all. You all gave me stick.
We're so used to the Bills being a whipping boy.
Yeah, well, you need to listen to Uncle Dan.
Uncle Creepy Dan.
I can't argue with that comment.
How did the Eagles do this week?
Wig.
Or have you changed allegiances yet now? Are you going
Are
to
you
come out as a
fully-
chief?
It's fine, I can talk about both if you want.
No, talk about the Chiefs.
Well, I think we should talk about the Chiefs.
There's going to be a section, I think, a little bit later where we talk about some of the upsetting results of the week. So we'll talk about the Eagles now.
Yes,
We'll come back to
yeah.
the Chiefs later.
Yeah, I mean, the Eagles were a bit of an upsetting result for Cheeseheads. I think there was a lot of people going into that game who were assuming that it was just going to go one way.
And it didn't. Yeah, the Eagles'
Eagles'
defense on defense was absolutely stellar. Putting one of those absolutely paradise weeks up where you could be easily winning your week just off the fact that you happen to play them.
The way they did it as well. The takeaway. Did you see the takeaway? Has
Oh,
anyone
yeah,
seen
is
it
that
with
the one where he
strip
just
off it?
gifted?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just runs up behind him, puts
Takes
both
it
hands
off
on the ball and just pulls it off him. It's like, I'll have that off you. And he just gives it him. Is that alright? Go on
Okay.
then. There you go, pick 6. Yeah, it was something else. But it was perhaps a sign the Eagles might be a bit better than
People
they
were
looked to
expecting.
start with.
They've got a really,
Starting to come
really
together.
good run defence.
Across the board, they're not bad at any part of the game, really.
No.
Wentz is looking good. Their run game's looking good with Howard waking up a little bit. Their receivers are each
Jeffrey's
getting a little
back
bit out of
now,
it.
so
Jeffrey's
yeah,
back
they
with
looked
it.
a bit iffy.
With
before
Aguilar
his
with holes in
return.
his hands.
Yeah.
But he's a bit of a roll of the dice, Aguilar. Sometimes he'll pull something off that will win you a game, like when he does 2 spin moves and runs past 2 defenders like they're not there.
Yeah.
And other weeks, he'll just forget he's got hands. And yeah, it's costly. But no, the Eagles are looking good again. And there's nothing bad about the team.
Zach Ertz had one of the few tight end relevant weeks this week.
Yep.
Yeah, there was a lot of
So-
disappointment on the tight end front. wasn't there?
Yeah, but in terms of Eagle fandom. It's a good time to be an Eagles fan. They're going up.
Where did you predict him at the start of the season? Was it 9-7?
Yeah, around there.
How do you feel about that? No.
I think they might actually go past that a little bit.
You do?
Yeah. But a lot of that's down to
Did
I
you have
think
to place the Bills? Can you win?
it's probably the Cowboys that are going to be the big games for them.
Yeah.
Because at the start of the season, I thought the Cowboys were going to be doing a lot better than they are.
Yeah, they've struggled against big opponents.
They've just struggled. They've not done well. I mean, they beat the Dolphins, but they've been the least convincing team to beat the Dolphins, which is a bit strange.
Oh, I don't know. The Chargers made it look difficult.
Yes,
The Chargers
they
made it look
did.
difficult to start, but after losing
Yeah,
some
after the
points,
first half.
they came out. Whereas the Cowboys felt like they were in a game with the Dolphins, and that's not good, is
It's
it?
embarrassing, isn't it?
Yeah. So if the Eagles can brush them aside, then I think it's probably going to be a better record. So what about the Jags?
Count.
Too proud of them. We lost this week, but it kind of doesn't matter. Like, we looked like we were in the game all the way to the end.
Game, yeah.
Nothing bad to say about it at all. It's nice to have fantasy relevant players. It's just good for the Jags. You feel like even if you're losing games, there's hope that you can be winning them. It's not the same culture as under Bortles. Like, everyone wants to see the game.
I'm going to say, is it all down to Gardner Minshew?
Certainly, he's been a polarising factor. He's brought a lot of attention to the team from all around the NFL.
Or do you think it's down to a good O-line?
I wouldn't even say we have a good O-line, to be honest. Like, on the scale of things, I wouldn't rate them too highly.
Minshew's
Gardner,
done a lot
You
of
think
scrambling.
Fournette having 200-yard games so far this year?
it's not an accident. There are going to be times when the O-line is going to make him look good. But certainly from protection point of view for the QB, Gardner has been getting quite badly roughed up.
Okay.
And he's been doing a lot to escape. Like, literally, the guy is like the gingerbread man at times. And I think it was against the Broncos where he slips 4 or 5 defenders to throw
that
the
was an
touchdown pass.
incredible play.
So
it was, yeah.
He has been, pressured a lot this season, and I think the O-line probably does need some more work on sorting that out. But clearly, we're handling it, and we feel like a team that's at least got break-even potential, which I think going into the season, people would have been saying 5 or 6 wins at best. If Foles has one of those stellar outings that he occasionally has, we could be in the positive sort of bracket. But this Minshew team feels like a very comfortable break-even kind of a team, with every match feeling close.
Yeah.
We didn't even feel overmatched in the Kansas game. So, yeah, I think it's a good time to be an optimistic Jaguar. It really is.
Weird times we live in.
Truly. And that takes us very neatly into the next section, which is that it's still a ridiculous time to be in the NFL. The Chiefs lose to the Colts. We were unanimously defied by what exactly? The Colts. Excellent scheming for the game.
Good defence for the Colts.
Look in that second half how long Kansas had the ball. They were just basically, the Colts just went, no, you're not going to play, we're going to keep the ball, we're not going to let you have it, because if you don't have the ball, you're not going to throw ridiculous touchdowns against us.
37,
Exactly what I think.
37 minutes of possession.
Yeah,
The Colts.
and teams are spotting that with the Chiefs, and it's happened in games before this, but this is the most obvious one. Teams just stop you having the ball. They'll run the clock down on you. They'll make the game very short with it. There'll be no breaks. It'll just be the constant clock running down. They don't want the Chiefs to score over and over because they know they can't match it.
Yeah.
So if the game's only a quarter of the length of a normal game, well, the Chiefs can't score that many. It worked well for the Colts.
Yeah.
But I think the key
The
to it
blueprint to
was,
beat them,
and you better get it ready, Mahomes was injured.
More
He
money
was,
in the
he
pot,
was.
Swig.
Yeah, he hurt. Well, he got hurt a couple of weeks ago, and he was struggling with it. He was questionable all week last week. Goes into the game and gets the same injury again. And after that, he couldn't run around. If you watch the throw he makes to Pringle with it, he's moving around okay, and that's the last time in the game that he moves like that. The rest of the time, he's lost that spring,
Nibbled.
and that makes a big difference.
So how do you think going forward, is that going to be a problem?
It's a problem for my fantasy teams because I've got him in so many leagues. I really need him not be injured.
The
But
Chiefs
it's a
bye was
problem.
quite late on as well, isn't it?
Yeah, like week 12 or something
Oh,
like that. It's
gosh.
way late.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a good sign for him. And hopefully, they said he's gone for treatment this week. Hopefully, it's just a case of a bit of rest and it'll heal up a bit. They're not above strapping him up and pumping him full of whatever it is that makes it not hurt anymore. It's never a good sign, though, is it?
No.
Tyreek Hill coming back.
If Mahomes can't throw, it's not that brill.
Okay.
Is it affecting his throwing?
Oh, there's a
Wow.
dour cloud above the ever rainbow that was the Chiefs. Okay.
I mean, it wasn't exactly like they got blown out. It was a close game where
It was
the
a close
Chiefs...
game. He kept him in it.
It was a close but very low-scoring game, and that was
Yeah.
the crucial thing.
That's the first time Mahomes Chiefs haven't scored 26 points
Yeah.
in a game.
Yeah.
And I think some
Wow.
element of that probably is due to the fact that, Mahomes is, not at 100%, but clearly some part of the defensive scheming is going to be given credit. Those Colts,
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
they've done something absolutely magical there, and we might start to see something like that replicated by other teams, maybe looking for similar successes.
I think
Great
the Colts are good, though.
Oh yeah.
Colts were a good
Strangely
team.
so, but then
Yeah.
they lost to the Raiders.
But does that pay testament to the Raiders, who have just beaten
I think it
the
does.
Bears,
I think it does.
which everyone had that pegged
Yeah.
down as a Bears win?
Us included.
Have to eat a little bit of humble pie on that team.
They are looking real.
Yes.
And what a great feeling that must have been for John Gruden, who, playing against Khalil Mack, was able to come away with the win.
And not feel roughed up by the big guy.
Yeah. They Trent Brown, I think it is, the left tackle for the Raiders, who was with the Patriots last year, and he just kept Khalil Mack quiet, which is no mean feat,
Certainly a task if that's how it happened. I mean, they came away with a win, surprised everyone, made some people very sad.
Yeah.
Looking at you, Phil.
Please don't hurt us.
And it made for good television. Watching the game, really
It
did.
was a good game. As a neutral, it was a really good game.
Absolutely.
A lot of people were expecting a bit of a blowout, I think, but good for the NFL fans in the UK and Europe and everything. So it's good to
And
get a
not
spectacle
not a
like that.
bum score either. Like
No.
it could very easily have been two weak offenses struggling to do anything. But that's not what we saw either, which is
No.
really just good
That
stuff.
was good.
Yeah, it was a decent game with it.
I mean, there was an upsetting result for me this week, which is that the Broncos managed to get their first win against the Chargers.
Chargers are not looking good.
They've
are
got so
they?
many injuries. They've just lost their centre to IR as well, Mike Pouncey,
Yeah,
which is another huge blow.
that is a big
They're
blow.
getting crippled left, right, and centre, literally.
Now, I'm pleased that the Broncos managed to get a win. I would just rather it have been not against my Chargers. So that's a little bit disappointing.
Great game for Lindsay, though. Boom.
Certainly helped him out. Now, fantasy-wise, because a lot of peculiar things have been happening, a lot of teams unpredictably have done well, or certainly better than we might have expected. It's been feeding time for a lot of unexpected players, where we've now got a top 5 relevant players who we perhaps hadn't heard of coming into the league this year.
Yeah.
So DJ Chark, for instance, happy to mention that he's had another stellar week.
Yeah.
So we're going to look at the top 5 wide receivers. So we're just over a quarter of the way through the season, which
Yeah.
seems crazy, but there we go. So the top 5 wide receivers on this will be full point PPR. Chris Godwin hitting in at number 1. Who'd have thought that?
Certainly not me.
It wasn't Ian.
Thanks again.
I
Rick.
was high on the guy. We've got that on record.
Wide receiver 1 high though.
Yeah,
Okay, that was ambitious.
Nobody would have got him there. A lot of people were very high on Godwin
Oh,
this off season, this going into this
Yeah.
year. I know I was looking to get him, but I was trying to get him for value, which I didn't get
No, people
Until-
too high on him.
until the other week when Wig dropped into the waiver wire. I didn't think I'd get him for that good value.
Absolutely.
Do,
The
do,
best value.
do you see that being
Maintained.
at the end? At the end of the season, I mean, what are the chances that Chris Godwin is sat there as wide receiver 1?
Alright, I would like to weigh in now and say, barring an injury, I would expect to see the guy within the top 15 realm. I probably wouldn't be too high on the notion that he's going to be in the top 3. And certainly not top 1.
No.
I think he's going to have spiky weeks where he does exceptionally well and other weeks where he goes quiet. And over the course of a year, I think you would expect to see that in the conversation for top 10, but likely just out of it.
Because if,
Top 10 for
if he
me.
keeps this pace, His receptions are going to be what? Around 120? And his yards about
1,500 and about 12
about
touchdowns.
2,000. So no, we're seeing a regression, aren't we? There, you know, if you're saying 1,500 yards, which is great, but he's going to come down because I mean that's after what?
Oh, that's about right. Because this is 5 weeks. There'll be another 10 weeks of fantasy football.
It's still
okay.
hefty. He's
Yeah. So
averaging over
1,500
100 yards
is
a
about-
week and a touchdown.
Oh, yeah.
That's
I mean, on
not
pace for
sustainable.
18 touchdowns
Oof.
Yeah.
I mean, that'd
and
be
99
amazing.
reception. I mean, he's not gonna keep that pace.
No.
I don't think.
It's that level of touchdown production, though, that's pushing him above the other receivers.
It is.
Mhm.
Even with just 3 less touchdowns, he jumps down to like 5th place. So, you know, we're really seeing the upside of touchdown value, and that
Yeah.
changes week to week, and
Yeah.
you know, likely
It's
an
hard to
early
maintain
indication of it.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
an early excess of touchdowns isn't necessarily sustained through the season. So Chris Godwin, number 1.
Yeah, number 2 is Michael Thomas. So
Which
not
surprises,
unsurprising.
really.
no.
Well, not going into the season, but then when they lost Drew Brees, I'm surprised.
A little bit surprised, but not overly surprised.
45 receptions
No.
is a big deal, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, that's the comparison here, though, is that Godwin's done what he's done on 33 receptions,
Yeah.
and Mikey T's done it on 45.
Yeah.
So almost 50% more, really,
Mhm.
you know, receptions to get a similar amount of production. Obviously, because of the change in touchdowns, but you know, there's a lot there for Chris Godwin to use. Like, if he was getting more touches, would he be stellar productive?
Yeah. I
Cooper
think
Kupp.
he leads the. Sorry, I think Michael Thomas leads the target share.
Oh, for sure.
Leader in the wide receivers, about 34%
Yeah.
target share. I think.
I would expect he doesn't lead Cooper Kupp by all that much, though.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a jump on Cooper Cup from when we were looking at it,
Yeah,
but
he's
they
sort of
are
top
close
5,
to each
but
other.
yeah.
But
Cooper Cup, on the other hand,
So number
is a bit of
3.
a surprise being up here, isn't it?
Because
Is
they
it a surprise?
very
Third,
much ran a 3-headed sort of
Yeah, they were a bit of
monster,
a monster,
didn't they?
weren't they? Yeah.
It was one game was Cup, one game was Woods. Cooks would get a look in, and it was who does he go to? Who does he go to? But it almost seems like Cooper's taking more of that.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. So last season we saw him be a very target-heavy kind of hog, really. He wanted all the grabs. He wasn't necessarily the red zone target, wasn't necessarily the long ball target, but he certainly had volume, which he would trust going into the following season. But the injury meant that his ADP fell a little bit, which means that we weren't perhaps as high on him as we could have been. And as a result, we're seeing Cooper do rather well for himself.
Yeah.
Good work, lad.
Yeah.
Nice to see he's recovered from his injury.
Those teams that picked up Cooper are very pleased. But the Rams, there's something wrong at the Rams. They are not clicking.
They're not the team of last season, certainly.
Yes.
No. I don't know if that's the Super Bowl hangover.
I think Super Bowl hangover has a big thing to do with it.
I mean, that sounds like blaming wizardry and fortune and the alignment of the planets, and I'm not prepared
No,
to do that
it's
myself.
so hard to
Oh,
build
look at
yourselves
Julia,
up.
Look at the Falcons.
Yeah, you build yourself all the way up and then fall at the final hurdle.
Yeah.
It's so hard to pick yourself back up again.
And we've
So
seen
it's
that really prominent with the
Yeah,
Falcons.
it happens all
They've
the
not
time.
been
They've
of
vanished,
any
haven't they? Yeah.
relevance.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
I think that's
They've
more of a
gone all that
coincidence.
way to the Super Bowl,
Yeah.
led by 24 points, is it, or something,
Oh,
at
it's so
half time,
harsh.
and
Just to be
lost.
crushed.
And we've not seen anything of that like since. And that's a very similar team to,
Yeah.
to that
I think
Super
it's
Bowl.
a testament to Sean McVay they're doing as well as they are this season.
I think we'll come back to the Falcons a little bit later on.
Sure. Sorry, yeah.
Because they are another outlier of a team, and they've got some problems. So Cooper Kupp, done well, very happy to see him in the top 3.
If
Would
they,
we expect him to stay there?
if they continue to play as they are,
Yeah.
Just on volume.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Because purely on volume, we expect Cooper to stay in the top 5 conversation.
And he's had 41 receptions.
It's a good number.
It's an excellent number. So yeah, no.
505 yards and 4 touchdowns so far.
Amari Cooper, as 4th on the list, has really broken out as a receiver like everyone wanted him to when he was at the Raiders after coming to Dallas. And it's strange, really, to think that this would happen because Dak has been slighted quite heavily for being, a very passive quarterback, much more of a manager than an actual player. looking to make the grab, make the long play for him. And Amari Cooper really has given him that option now, and he's really exploiting it. Do you expect Amari Cooper to retain this production?
Yes.
Definitely.
I don't know if
He doesn't surprise me being there, to be honest.
No, he doesn't.
Does he stay top 5 or
Yeah.
just top 10?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I see him top 5.
I could see that.
Quite happily.
I could see that.
Now, was Amari Cooper drafted particularly highly?
Yeah,
to
third.
justify that?
He's
Third
the third
round.
rounder, yeah.
In some cases, I've seen him go in the 12th, in the second round.
No, I think Amari's
Second,
about
third.
fine where he is. I think he'll
Yeah.
probably hang about there for the rest of the season.
I think now we're going to find a point of contention as we move to player number 5.
I don't know whether Mari. I don't know. He could, injury-wise, that could be a
Oh,
problem.
well, yeah, I mean, we're all speaking as if, excluding injuries,
Yeah.
because you can't foresee an injury and
He just came into the league with a bit of a dodgy. He came into the season with a bit of a dodgy foot. And,
That's true.
And I don't know. I just sense that Cooper is the type of player that might sort of get a knock. And also, Dallas's offense in the past 2 games hasn't been clicking quite in the way it should, and they aren't bringing in Zeke quite like they did.
you can't let your personal emotions sway your judgment just
But-
because you want more Zeke.
But if they're not winning with Dak trying to ball out and throw all these passes, which he's trying to do, he's trying to say, it's my bloody season, isn't it? It's the season where he's going to get his contract.
Yep.
He's showing I'm not just a game manager. I can ball out. I can make these passes. And at the start of the season he was, and everyone was like, "Wow, this Kellen Moore
his
offense."
first game,
Ooh.
everyone was blown away. Wow.
And last 2 games it's been a bit more dicey, a bit more nervous faces on that Dallas offense side. So we'll see. They might shift it a bit. They might say, you know what? Actually, we've just spent quite a bit of money on a running back who we were just constantly using last season, and it was okay. Maybe bring him in more. I don't know. We'll have to see. But
So
yeah.
Cooper's stats are 32 receptions, so not 10 less
almost.
than Cooper Cup. 512 yards, so he's doing more with the ball when he's got it, and 5 touchdowns.
Almost the same as Chris Godwin. Almost
Yeah.
exactly the same,
Yeah.
but 1 touchdown less.
Yeah, very similar.
So it's a very narrow field at the top.
Really is.
So, yeah.
And then there's DJ Chark.
Yes.
A little bit
Yes,
of a
there
drop
is.
from the other 4. He's
A
certainly a little bit of a drop down.
Yeah, 8 points behind 4th place Cooper, which is the biggest differential, I think.
I think the easiest way to address this one is, do any of us feel, so Ben, do you feel like DJ Chark's going to remain in the top 5?
No.
Dan, do you think that DJ Chark's going to remain in the top 5?
Not top 5, though.
Wig, do you? No, I don't. Cal, do you?
Yes! Yes, I do! Yes!
I'd like to see it, to be fair.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing. He's done it off so limited an amount of targets compared to the others that are in this bracket that if he's able to perform with a rookie quarterback coming into what is a badly dismissed offense, to be able to make plays even with the small number of targets that he's getting to generate this, if he goes up in total targets, we can only expect to see an uptick in production. He's just good. They're getting it done. The Gardner Chark connection, man, they're busting skulls. They're loving it. And it's a good time to be positive about the Jags. And while I think it's realistic to expect him to come down and maybe stay in the top 20 receivers, right, which might turn out to be the right answer by the end of the season, I'm not prepared to accept that at this stage. I think he's more than capable of staying in the top 5.
I think top 10. I wouldn't be surprised if he stayed in the top 10.
Top 12 potentially, more than likely top 15.
I mean, are other teams going to start taking notice and start putting better cornerbacks on Shaw?
Sure, the guy's really quick though, and if they haven't got a very good corner on him, he's going to blow him out because that's what he's been doing.
We'll
He's just
see.
been making plays.
Because what I wanted to point out was the players that were drafted higher, which aren't there, who you would expect to be. So you've got Julio, sat at 8th.
That's true.
So I'm assuming we're expecting him to.
Now, I wouldn't say that
Move up.
Julio is out of his comfort zone at this point. I think He's not seen as many receptions as he might have done in previous years at this point. His touchdowns are actually better than in previous years. So
certainly at this stage of the season.
Julio being a top 10 receiver is exactly where you expect him to be. He will be somewhere in there, and he will probably still be there at the end of the season. You'd be foolish to expect him not to.
What about the league leader in air yards?
Mike Evans down at 14th.
Now, is Godwin going to hurt him? Because he was drafted second round in a lot of leagues.
Well, I think personally that what they were looking to do in the Bucs offense was try and sort of score on every drive kind of thing, pass heavily, and kind of everybody eats, everyone needs covering. Similar to how the Chiefs are operating, similar to perhaps the Rams were operating last year, where they've got a lot of good receiving targets and they want to use all of them as often as possible. And I think that you can't necessarily support that going through the whole season, but all of their receivers will get fed to some degree.
So he's now wide receiver 14. So we're expecting him to rise?
Yes.
A little.
Yes.
Okay.
He had
Not a
two
little.
early poor performances, apparently due to a stomach issue.
Yeah,
I think Mike Evans is probably going to be top 8.
He's had 15 less catches
I would have said top 12.
than Godwin so far.
So let's see. And then I think the biggest notable one so far is our...
D-Hop,
Yeah. Nuke.
who's recently been traded in one of our leagues
Yeah.
Ooh.
for Matt Breda, which, on the face of it, you'd shudder at.
Yeah, sounds like an error, doesn't it?
But in comparison of stats,
He's wide receiver 17.
I think someone's pulled the trigger very early on Matt Breida.
especially given the return of Tevin Coleman now.
Essentially.
But Coleman returned last week, and Breida still went over 100 yards and got a touchdown on it.
Yeah, but I don't think they'd have lent as heavily on Coleman as they might do going forward.
I think
because
Coleman
he was
will
coming back
just take
from
more of the
injury.
passes. I don't see him eating into the carries all that much.
Well,
Don't know.
we can move on to talk about the running back situation in just a moment.
Yeah.
DeAndre Hopkins, do we think he will stay as outside of the top 15 receiver?
I don't think he can. I think he's going to go up. He's going to have good games. He's playing Kansas City this week. So in what looks like the biggest shootout
Yeah.
of the year,
He's been
potentially,
traded.
he's been swapped. And I mean, I'm biased in this because he's been swapped to the team I'm playing against. So, yeah, I would have been much more comfortable with Breida sat on that as opposed to D-Hop, because I got burnt by the bloody Texans last week. Gonna get burnt by him again, apparently. But, you know, if the person who traded him thinks that he's going to continue on this current pace, then why not? Why
Yeah.
not ship him on?
Yeah.
Because he's going to end up wide receiver 2, and Breida could be a decent RB2, a high-end one. So, if that's how it's panning out, then... Or we could see him tear up teams like he tore up the Browns, so we'll see. But
But it's probably more...
we're probably going to see a 3-touchdown week from D-Hop.
What's more noticeable is the fact that the Texans' number 2 receiver is how many places above him? 11? 10 places above him.
It was one aberrant game, though, wasn't
It's
it?
inflated, admittedly, given the last matchup. But and it could have been worse because he had 2 touchdowns turned down at the 1 yard line.
Now, I know Wig's a huge fan of picking up Will Fuller.
I am a big fan of Will Fuller. Yeah.
But you said going into this season, I'm not feeling him this year.
I am not feeling him this year.
Not
And
feeling
I'm
him
not
this year.
like, if you were a Will Fuller owner and you've had Will Fuller in your lineup for 4 weeks, would you have stuck with him in week 5?
It's a tough one.
You know, he's not scored above 5
I
points.
think
is
a
it,
lot
for
of
him?
people would probably have dropped.
Yeah. How many people played him this week? Yeah. I'm a big fan of Will Fuller when things kind of line up nicely, and that didn't feel right this year, if that makes sense.
Well, that's
previously
the
when he was
lateral
doing well
effect,
was when
isn't it?
Hopkins had been kind of in and out, and teams weren't too sure quite who to cover, and that's where Will Fuller seemed to thrive.
I think it's more the Stills effect. Stills was injured last week. Prior to that, he's not been injured, and Fuller's not been
Yeah.
as noticeable. Stills goes out of the game, all of a sudden, a shed load more targets to Fuller.
The thing with it is now, they've got to consider giving Fuller more targets next week. They have
Yeah,
to,
he's
because
made a case for his
produced.
name, hasn't he? Yeah.
The Texans' offense, though, has changed up how it looks a little bit because they've started to incorporate tight ends into their game plan and using them
But
as
they
red zone
didn't
looks.
use them this week.
Well, Darren Fowler still got 2 touchdowns on 2 catches, so that still counts.
Did he get? I've missed a touchdown there with it.
Yeah, so they're incorporating their tight ends more than they ever have done previously. And as you've got more viable threats around the place, and with Fuller's ability to maybe just take one catch to the house, which I think traditionally was his big play potential, wasn't it? Was the reason that you want to hold on to the guy.
He's very good, not so much in PPR. In standard format, he's a very good kind of...
When you play the game of guess the touchdown.
Yeah, if you can guess the touchdown with him, he's going to give you a 70-yard touchdown. So he's worth the best part of 15 points in a play.
Yeah.
And that's very useful.
And it might be all he does for the whole game.
Yeah, it very often was all he did for the whole game.
Yeah.
But for a standard format, that's fine. PPR, now it's moved over to standard PPR for most things. Not a big fan of Will Fuller.
Yeah.
I think
And then
that
this week he goes
inflates
50
his-
points.
I think that inflates his value. PPR.
He just doesn't get the total
He
number
doesn't
of
get the
receptions
targets.
typically.
Yeah.
But last game was I think for Fuller owners who've sort of tracked him over time, you would be very surprised at the amount of usage that he got in the game. Typically, he normally gets 3 or 4 catches on a maximum of 7 targets. This time he got 7 catches on more than that in targets, and then the massive touchdown
He
upside.
got 14 catches.
There you go. He was just outrageously productive and outrageously targeted compared to his normal target share.
So it's almost like if you're given a lot of the ball, it's easier to do well.
Correct.
Leads kind of nicely
of course.
onto running backs, doesn't it?
I suppose so, yeah.
Should we just say Christian McCaffrey nailed on running back 1 for the season, short of an injury, done?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Locked and loaded.
On that note, Christian McCaffrey got a little bit tired from carrying the Carolina McCaffreys for such a long time.
Yeah.
They even brought in Bonifon.
They brought in Reggie Bonifon, who immediately ripped off a 60-yard run. Now, just because Christian McCaffrey's really good doesn't automatically make his backup really good, does it?
No.
So something the Carolina McCaffreys are doing is making it so that their running backs are doing very well.
Yeah, McCaffrey is absolutely tearing up defences to the point that they just want to get off the pitch, go home, stop playing. They're like, oh, they put another runner in. Mega, like who's going to chase him? I'm knackered after running after McCaffrey all game.
Well, if McCaffrey is seeing this level of usage through the entire season, and he is now seeing even more usage under Kyle Allen as opposed to Cam Newton, who was doing other things with the ball, it might be time to pick up Bonifon on the waivers, because he might be another running back with standalone value behind a lead back, like how Eckler was used behind Gordon.
Yeah, he's a strange one though, because he's kind of come from nowhere as well.
Yes.
So he's not like he's a known entity, he's just
Yes.
appeared out of nowhere. Literally appeared out of nowhere. He turned up, had a decent run, and now he's on people's lips.
Yeah, and rightly so, I think, with what he managed to do during the game.
Because we've not looked at him.
No,
And
I
I've
dived
looked
as
at
deep,
them,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, I dived deep into running backs. And while I saw a name, I paid no attention to it because he was so far out of contention.
Now we will be paying some attention to him.
Yeah, exactly. Particularly if McCaffrey's going to get this workload, the likelihood of injury does go up proportional with the amount of work that
Yeah.
people get.
Or
The
at
more you
least
see the
they'll-
ball, the more you get hit.
They'll perhaps scale back some of the usage of McCaffrey just to minimise some of the workload on the guy, and then maybe give it to Bonifon again if he's
Maybe.
similarly productive.
But I still don't see that taken away from McCaffrey being RB1
No.
on the year.
No.
On the flip side, RB2 is Austin Eckler.
That won't
Yeah.
maintain. That will not maintain at all.
So Dan, you don't think it will?
No.
No?
Top 20, maybe.
I think he might have put up enough already to keep him.
That's if the Gordon rumours of still being traded aren't true.
Yeah, we can talk about that a
Yeah.
little bit later on, but yeah,
That would-
as
that
it
would
stands,
answer
with
that.
Gordon back, Eckler will not keep up this production. We don't think.
Well, here's a situation. Now, I am a big fan of the Chargers,
Yep.
and their team is looking pretty banged up, and they're using Eckler more now as a receiver than they are as a running back. He's still got a couple of carries, but he got an absolutely phenomenal amount of catches during the last game.
15 catches.
That's right.
But only for 84 yards, which is the lowest yardage on such a high.
But we're here on PPR, and we're
Okay,
looking for volume.
Yeah.
So if it is that you're getting that sort of volume game in and game out because your receiving core's unhealthy,
Yeah, your receiving core's unhealthy. When that gets healthy, then what changes? Hunter Henry's practicing today, apparently,
should be
partially.
back.
Does that alter that then? Will that affect his value?
quite possibly. But Eckler's done so much at the start of the season, I think they'd be foolish not to keep utilising him while they've got him available.
While they don't need to pay him is the important bit.
And that's the
Yeah,
next
yeah.
part, isn't it?
Because that's the Gordon one. If Gordon does go, and we'll talk about that briefly later on, if Gordon goes, Eckler's probably going to be relevant for the season. But if nothing changes and Gordon stays there, Eckler is going to see a drop in performance.
I'll agree with that.
Yeah.
Any
It would
thoughts on
be
it, Ben?
it would be a
It's got
good
to.
it would be a good time to trade for him.
We can
Get
have a
rid
chat
of
about that in a bit with it.
Eckler.
Yeah.
Well, the
Someone-
thing is, are they winning? No, they're not.
No.
They've got a new player, essentially for the year, who's come back.
Gordon,
They're going to have to sit down, get him working, get him in. He could be the boost that they need to turn things around.
Well-
they're hit with injuries. They could just keep giving him that rock, and he can smash people down. And they don't care if he gets injured. Gives a toss.
This first
They're
game back,
shipping him on.
Gordon was not particularly productive.
Well,
He's looking at around the 3 yards a carry mark, and that's not a great mark to be at.
But that is about average for Gordon. He's
It
got a
is.
really low yards per carry,
That's right.
but his relevance comes in with the catching game to
He's
boost it.
Also done no pre-season. First time back in with the game. It's a bit hard to judge him off the first game.
Which is why they sort of peppered him in a little,
Yeah.
you know, they just...
And
which
why
I kind of figured they
Eckler
would do.
remained fantasy relevant, even though he wasn't 40 points good again. He was still a relevant.
Well, they
player.
gave Gordon the majority of the carries, didn't they? Eckler got about 3 carries, I think, for 7 yards.
So right now, I think Eckler is probably about 50 points clear of the 10th place running back for fantasy production wise, and I do think that gap will shorten,
oh, yeah, definitely.
and he will probably look to end the season around the 8 to 15 bracket, even if it is just with receiving production, which customarily he's seen some action in. So he's probably had the best part of his season now, and if you're holding on to Eckler, barring a sudden move to trade out Gordon or suddenly all the receivers become healthy, I don't think you'll see the same level of production you've been used to with Eckler any further, and you might be able to trade him on at his current price rather than his price
Well,
about to appear.
The trade deadline is the end of October, I think, isn't it, for the NFL?
Yeah.
So that's your sort of window with which to shop him or keep him, decide what you want to do with him. If you think they're going to get rid of Gordon, maybe keep him, because he's been very productive with Gordon being there. But if they're going to keep Gordon, then do you want to shop him at his current value, because he's got a good...
He'll still
Yeah.
remain fantasy relevant. He's just there. And you didn't draft him as the RB2.
No,
I mean,
he was...
so-
you pick him up in
I
the
think
6th
there's
round?
there is only
Later
Cal
on.
who was interested in putting any kind of draft capital into making sure he got him.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And it
And
was
that
a
was
very
because you
it
were
was a-
drafting Melvin Gordon all the time.
I would take Melvin Gordon if I could, as long as it was at a reasonable price. But I would pick up Eckler in any league I was in as late as I felt I could get away with. But normally about the 7th round is where I would get him, and obviously that's been tremendously valuable. It's helped my start of my season off massively.
So number 3.
Dalvin Cook.
Yeah.
Is the guy going away? I don't think so.
Short of an injury.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
he'd
he'd have to
solid.
work his pants off to get into the top spot.
It's not.
But
Yeah.
it would be hard to shift him out of the top 5, I think, at this point. The Vikings have committed to giving him production.
Yeah.
Run first team. Great O-line.
Big test for
Very
him this
elusive.
week, though.
Yeah.
Be interesting to see how he fares against the Philadelphia run
Yeah.
defense.
It'd be good. But he's going to be there or thereabouts. Since we're not expecting a big drop off from him.
He should stay about the same, but he's done all right so far. But he already played the Bears defense, so the idea of playing the Eagles defense and that being his challenge,
I suppose it shouldn't be quite as intimidating, should it?
yeah.
Well,
if he's
Yeah,
played
but the Bears
Bears
defense did nothing to to stop Josh Jacobs?
No,
Well, they tried.
they just
How are
couldn't.
they as run? They might have a good front line, but it doesn't mean they're good at the run defense because that's about pressuring the quarterback in some instances.
Well, the Bears shut him down as most he's been shut down. He didn't get above 100 yards. He was what, 70 yards,
35 rushing
70
yards
yards
against
total.
the Bears.
Yeah,
They
less
lost
than
that
20
game.
points. But the guy's having the season we wanted him to have last year.
Yeah.
I know that Cal, every time he looks at him,
Yeah. It hurt me so
is-
badly last year.
Yeah.
So badly.
and
But I traded
I
for
think
him this year because he was coming good, and that worked out rather well.
we've still got injury worries around him a bit though.
Absolutely. That was
Yeah.
his try. I was trying to get his backup, Matterson.
Yeah.
But it turns out that Stingy Dan will not give him up. Not for anything.
No, I think he's right to hold on to Mattison
Yeah.
because Cook's getting used a lot. The kind of injury he took, you'd expect it would have re-injured already, but just the sheer volume he's getting as well. Yeah, I'd like to have his backup.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I would.
Absolutely.
But Dalvin Cook's going nowhere, right?
Yeah, he seems firm as a top 5 player, not just on production or talent or anything like that, but the sheer amount of time he's going to spend with the team.
Any of us thinking he'll drop out the top 5 this year?
No.
No, short of injury,
Yeah.
should be fine.
Okay, so we just cursed him then, and he'll
Yeah,
so
he's
On
breaking his leg.
flip side, Aaron Jones.
Aaron
Oh.
Jones.
What is going on here?
Well,
Arrogant Jones.
I know quite a bit about Aaron Jones because I traded him away. Now, I picked him up in Dynasty about the 4th round or so
Yeah.
as an RB2, and it was looking reasonable, but then I remembered he's on a LaFleur offence, and I know that offence because I had Derrick Henry the year before. And what he does is he gives a lot of carries and a lot of opportunity to his passing back. So it was Dion Lewis for the whole year who got the majority, and then they'd sprinkle in the power back, and that's how it looked. It was going. Williams
Jamal Williams.
was just getting much more of the ball, and I just thought he's a great running back. He's going to get a few touchdowns, but he's not going to see the volume. So off he went. So I trade him away. Then Jamal Williams gets sandwiched and concussed, so out he goes. And then their number 1 target, Adams, hurts his toe. He goes out, and the entire Green Bay offense then just has to run through Aaron Jones, and he just proves that he's a fantastic running back. But I don't know if LaFleur's going to think, oh my God, we've got something here, or if he goes, well, I split carries and I like the change of pace guy, and Williams comes back and he goes back.
So Aaron Jones is currently worth just over 110 fantasy points, with 45 of them coming in his last game.
Well, the thing is, he had 182.
Closer to 50.
49.
49.
He had 182 yards in the last game. Prior to that, on the season he's got 750. So a large portion of that is coming from that one game. For me, you're not going to see that production out of him on a regular level.
He got
He's-
19 yards against Denver. Got 21 yards against Philly.
However, he
So
was
then I'm
scoring a
thinking-
touchdown in each of those games.
Yeah.
He's currently at 8 rushing touchdowns, which leads the league.
Yeah.
But what you're banking on, you see, is Green Bay getting into the red zone for rushing opportunities, because that's where he's being used.
Yeah.
He's being used to punch that hole through and get the touchdown. When they're moving the ball, they're looking for more of a flexible type offense. But he's just proved that if they just give him the ball, he can win a game.
That's fair.
Are they going to carry on doing that?
No.
I hope not, or I'm going to look very silly at the end of the season. But yeah, so where do you think Aaron Jones is going to end up, Cal?
I think that was probably his best game that he's going to have had.
Oh, yeah, it's hard to
Yes.
emulate that. 4 TDs and 182 yards.
I think you should be expecting middling points from him after this. You might be looking at 100-yard games, you might be looking at 60-yard games with a touchdown. I think that's a much more realistic expectation for him. Once some established backup role for him starts to appear. Is it Dexter somebody?
Dexter Williams.
Yeah, Dexter Williams.
He's
Who's
the
supposed to be
rookie.
an emerging talent there,
Mhm.
who probably with a little bit more banging into shape will start to
Who were,
take
they,
some of the carries away.
who were they running out? No, they were running a Carson out.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's another name. Who I think Dexter Williams took an injury earlier on in the season, and then there was another backup because neither Aaron Jones or Jamal Williams have been able to stay healthy consistently for any length of time. It was worth looking into the Green Bay backs, but only as long as you didn't expect the passing attack to be the primary form of offense. So that's a backfield to keep an eye on for one reason or another. His production, I think, will tail off.
Not bad as an RB2 though. So if you drafted
Yeah,
him in like the
yeah.
4th, 5th, that's fine. I mean, I tried to trade up.
I would say towards the back half of the season, you would be expecting a downturn in Jones's production. And I don't think people are going to argue about that for too long. It's
Top 10 is
very
Like,
optimistic to
top
expect.
12.
Yeah,
top
it's very.
12.
I think he could end up doing a bit of a Derrick Henry.
Late
Where,
surge.
yeah, just a couple of really good games and a few games which you wish you'd not played him. And it'll see him slip.
Okay, so number 5.
You want to talk about this, don't you, Ben?
It's Nick Chubb.
We should probably do the rest of us and then let you go.
Yeah. I know.
The Chubb
Nick
rush.
Chubb is a really good running back. He'll be probably top 10.
Yeah.
Somewhere behind Lev Bell.
Lev Bell, we got to do.
Yeah.
So number 17th running back, Le'Veon Bell. He's clocked up 70 points so far to Nick Chubb's 98.
And if it isn't unreasonable to think that Bell outscores Chubb, it probably means that the Jets have to start doing a little bit better than they are doing, and maybe the Browns have to start doing things other than run the ball.
Well, Bell's been shut down because Falk's been the starting QB and they're not expecting him to be passing. So
Except
they
to
just-
maybe Bell.
Yeah, so they're taking Bell out of the game and he's not been able to do a lot with it. Darnold, who has been cleared to play this week,
Yep.
suddenly will make a difference for Bell's output. He'll catch up, no problem.
No problem. No problem. We
He
shall
won't
see.
quite get there, but he will close the gap.
Shall see.
I still think there's a chance he can catch him.
Yeah, he's got a bye week, Chubb, coming up after
Yeah.
the Seahawks, which
There's also just the chance that the Browns might brown and go on a late tank when there's nothing to benefit from it.
well, after the Seahawks and the bye week, they've got the Patriots.
Oh, I mean, they're going to lose to the
Then they've got the
Seahawks.
Broncos. Then they've got Buffalo. Good God.
Oh.
Then the Steelers, Miami, and Steelers again. Bengals, Cardinals, Ravens. Maybe.
By that time, the
maybe
confidence will
doable.
be so knocked.
Maybe doable.
Their confidence will
Yeah, they've got that
take a
mid-season
slump.
slump. Yeah.
Yep.
Plus the return of Kareem.
Yes.
At this point, that's...
So we'll see how that pans out. Now, James Conner was a first round draft pick and currently doesn't justify it.
No. it
Do we think
doesn't.
it'll stay that way? The loss
They've
of
had
Samuels.
so many crap
Yeah, probably.
Loss of Samuels
He's out for
probably
a
means
month,
he improves.
Samuels, so
Yeah.
that will help. But being down to Devlin Hodges won't. On the same basis that the Jets playing Falk, you know, not a lot is expected of Hodges. A bit was expected of Rudolph. Now they're down to their third string.
Any
He's
news,
not first round.
Any news on Rudolph with it?
Concussion.
protocol, isn't it?
Yeah, but
Concussion.
is there any
Beyond
news
that,
on-
nothing.
They've not
No,
said anything.
no. He
Because-
was able to sleep at home the first night, which is the only thing I've heard.
So the gist of it is with it is that if he's going to be coming back this week, is he really down to a third string?
I don't think he is coming back this
Who?
week.
Rudolph.
Mason Rudolph.
No, he's not playing this week.
So they
They are
actually
starting
taking that
Hodges.
first.
They've
Yeah.
said we're starting Hodges.
And they're playing
That's-
the Chargers. So,
Mm.
you know, it's not the
No.
toughest matchup
No.
going.
Oh, don't say
Connor could have a big week. There is very few people left there. And if they're not going to be throwing the ball a lot, which I don't think they will be,
that. Yeah, it's a good time to be running back there.
it
Yeah.
could be interesting.
It'll be a
moving
good
forward
game
for
for Connor. I
Well, it's a
think.
test. It is a test to see how good
Is this
he
where we
is.
see something more out of Benny Snell?
I think Benny Snell could come into it. If he's going to come into it, he's going to come into it now.
Because
Yeah,
he was,
it's a
well, he's
prime
had a
opportunity.
couple of snaps, hasn't he? He's had a couple of touches,
So we'll
and he's not done anything with them at all.
But then the
For one
Steelers
thing.
as a whole have been stalling. So we'll see. You know,
Should be a good game.
could be interesting.
Two injury-riddled teams going at it.
I do think James Conner's got the potential to go up, but he's also got
Well,
the potential
He showed
to
that
sit.
last year, but I think that was with such a pass-heavy team. He was able to run because they were gearing up for Big Ben, but they weren't passing, so he had the box free to run through.
A player I could see in the top 5 is Chris Carson. He had a very bad start to the year,
Top 5, that's bold.
but he could come into it. Looking at his
Very
last
bold.
2 games,
I mean, a player that definitely should have been in the top 5 is Todd Gurley, but he's going to be on a very limited snap count again.
Definite's a little bit strong.
I think
I think everyone was a bit
Damian
sceptical.
Williams was drafted in the first round, and we're not going to be seeing too much of him possibly for the rest of the season.
Not in the first round.
No, he's a second to
Yeah.
third.
I was going to say, I think I
round.
picked him up in the
I
fourth
think I
round.
got him in the third round actually.
Yeah.
Well, he
But
was
he
very
has
high
been
at
a
the start
real
of the season.
disappointment.
Yeah, there was certainly a lot of hype around him, but it was a bit questionable because there was a very small sample size of him.
Yeah.
Because it was, what was it, about 3 games towards the end of last year for the
Yeah.
Chiefs?
But he was
I'm looking
quite close
our
to Gurley,
Chiefs
really.
expert. Sorry?
He was quite close to Gurley in where he was being drafted.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's the injury lingering over Gurley, and on last year, he's a shadow of what he was, Gurley. He's only scored as much as he has because of touchdowns.
We will
He
round
is
up.
the ultimate vulture.
Yeah.
He's switched it up this year.
We'll round up the running back section here, and perhaps move over to quarterbacks and tight ends in next week's episode.
You've got Fournette at number 8 as well.
Yeah, that's probably where he'll be at the end of the season too.
Okay.
And we're going to go and talk about the upcoming week's matches and what our predictions are for it. And then from that, we will make our Survivor predictions, which have been pretty much 50-50 hits and misses, I think, so far.
Yeah.
So we'll see how we do this time.